How can I create a dynamic management dashboard? Select the years. Choose different months and have all the charts update dynamically. Take a look here. I'm going to teach you all of these items in detail in this video. They've also given us an information table that includes the date, product name, customer name, country, city, quantity, and price of the product. They've asked us to prepare a management dashboard for it. We'll go step by step to design the management dashboard. The first point, which I always recommend, is that when you see data like this, click on your data and press Ctrl+T to turn it into a table. In this message that pops up, it says it wants to turn the range from A1 to G5002 into a table, and your table has headers if this box is checked. I can also select this area manually, meaning I can clear it and click on this icon. Now I select my desired range, which starts from A2. I press Ctrl+Shift+down arrow and it selects the entire range. It's showing it here as well. I press enter and check the table header box. Okay, now if you noticed, our range has become a table. This table that has been created has many features. For example, in the table design section, you can apply different formatting styles to your table. I select the top part here and set its color to black in the home section. This is our table. What else does it need? My table shows the quantity and the price, but it doesn't show the total price. Here I write total. What is the total? I say it's equal to this price multiplied by this quantity, then press enter. If you noticed, when your area is a table, it automatically multiplies the rest of the rows. Now, you might wonder why the color on this side is different from that side. It's because our table had formatting before it became a table. So here I press Ctrl+A to select the area. I go to the Home tab, then to the Color Palette section and set it to No Fill. I say don't have any color. This way it becomes clear. Now another issue with our table is that I have the date here. You probably want the month and year. How can I extract the month and year from a date? Here I can create two new columns and write for one of them year, and for the other I write. How do I get the month and year? I press equals. I call the year function. I tell it, extract the year from here for me. Close parenthesis, press enter, and it outputs the year. If you look closely here, we currently have two distinct years. Now, how exactly can I efficiently extract the specific month from these dates? I will simply press the equal sign, then call upon the very useful month function, and finally, I will provide it with the reference to this particular cell containing the date. Press enter, and it outputs the month for me. One thing to note is that if you click here, you can see your different dates here. If you set its format to date here, the categorization will definitely be better. How do I select this column? I press Ctrl+H. In the Find What section, I enter the dash symbol, the same one that's between these, and in the Replace With section, I enter a slash. I tell it to replace this with a slash and click Replace. Now these have turned into dates. Look, their format is now date. Now if I click here, the categories are correct. It does it automatically. I open 2025. It shows me the different months like this, very simply and smoothly. So keep in mind, when you're working with dates, your separator should be a slash. This way, it automatically recognizes it and assigns the appropriate categories. Up to this point, our data is ready to be turned into a dashboard. Now that our table is ready for reporting, I go to the Insert tab and click on Pivot Table. In this section, it asks whether you want to create a new sheet for the reports or not. Do you already have a sheet yourself? I check the New Sheet option. I click OK. I allow it to create a new sheet for me. In this section, we need to create our reports. Look, in this part, we can see the columns that we have over there. Look, I have a series of columns here. These are our columns. Right here, I can see the names of those columns. Suppose I want to have the names of my products. I take the product names and drag them into the row section. These are the names of our products. I want to find out their sales amounts. I bring them into the value section and drop the total there. So here it's showing me the total sales amount. Again, you can create another report. How do I go back to sheet 1? Again, I click on the Insert Pivot Table section. This time, instead of saying create a new sheet, I say I already have a sheet and I click on this black arrow here. I go to my desired sheet. I click here and press enter. What's the next report you want to create? I want to find out the sales amount based on different countries. I need another report as well. What is it? I come here and click. In the Insert Pivot Table section, I check the existing worksheet option. I click the black arrow and go to sheet 2. I click here. Enter. Okay, what exactly do I want to achieve here? I want to find out the precise sales amount based on different specific years. Now, if I want to comprehensively include different months here, I have a couple of excellent options. I can simply drag the month field directly under the rows, which is a very straightforward approach. Or alternatively, I can strategically place the month information into the different columns, providing a distinct visual separation. You can do whichever one you need, but I'm going to put the month under the year. This way I can create my own reports. Now, how do I turn these reports into different charts and use them in my own dashboard? For that, I first open a new sheet like this. I select all the cells by clicking on this section. I go to the color palette section and give it the navy blue color. This becomes the visual appearance of my page. I will now go back to sheet 2, click here, and I can, for example, choose a bar chart or perhaps a line chart. Usually, in these specific cases, a bar chart is generally better, so I'll proceed with the bar chart. Within the chart itself, we can make some important changes. For example, I'll delete this particular element because I want to set the title myself. While the chart is currently selected, I will navigate to the Pivot Chart Analyze section and then carefully remove the field list and the field buttons to make it a bit less cluttered and more streamlined. Then I will cut this chart and paste it into sheet 3. This effectively becomes one of the essential reports we needed to create. Before doing anything else, we must first create the designated area where all the charts will be precisely placed. How do we do this? I go to the Insert section, then specifically to the Shape section, and proceed to create a shape here, just like this. You have the option to make the rounded corners a little bit less pronounced if that is your preference, adjusting them in this particular style. We can also dedicate a bit of time to working on the color. I will right click on the shape, then navigate to Format Shape, and from there I will go directly to the Fill section. Here, within the Fill options, I can incrementally increase the transparency a little bit. Again, I will carefully choose the navy color or perhaps this specific shade of color, and then I will set the transparency level to precisely 70%. You also have the ability to add a distinct border for this shape by simply going to the line section where you can customize its appearance. I consider the light. I don't want any line border on it. To send this shape backward, I select the shape. In the shape format section, I click on Send to Backward. I send it to the back. Now my chart comes to the very front. I will carefully place this chart right here. Now I can effectively remove this total, and we can also completely delete these unnecessary lines. To make the chart a bit wider and more visually appealing, I will select it, then proceed to go to this specific section. And here, if you meticulously increase or thoughtfully decrease the gap width, you will clearly see that the overall width of these particular axes changes significantly. In this precise way, I can select the x-axis, make it prominently bold, set its color to a deep black, and then apply the exact same property to our numerical values. In this comprehensive way, you will surely agree that our chart would be considerably better if it had clear data labels. To meticulously create data right-click on one of these charts and select Add Data Label. The labels will be added for me. I can select one of these labels, go to the Text option section, and have more advanced settings for my labels in different parts. Here, I can set the numbers to go from bottom to top, or if I go back to the label option section, I have the ability to specify that the label should be placed inside the chart, at the beginning, at the end, in the middle, or outside. I can set the color of the selected numbers to black, a bit more precise. Make them bold. These numbers are not separated. They don't have a separator. I can go to the number format and set it to number mode here. Set it to have 1000 separator, and this way it applies the separator for us. What should we do about the colors? Look, for the chart itself, when the chart is selected, go to the color palette section. Here, for example, set it to no fill. See, with no fill, it looks like this. In my opinion, this can be suitable, just that we should consider a border for it. I can set a white border for it. I can select the axes and set their color to white. Then I select the other axis and set its color to white as well. What should we do with the charts themselves? I select the charts themselves, set their color in the fill section to solid, and for example give them a burgundy color. I can also increase the transparency here a bit, say to 50% so it looks like this. I also select the numbers inside and set their color to white. This becomes one of our charts. If you feel that the corners of the chart are too sharp, you can go to the Insert Key Shape section and add a shape here again. I make the corners a bit less sharp. I bring it over to the side. I place it like this. Besides that, I send it to the back. So the chart comes to the front. I select the chart itself. In the border section, I select no line because I don't want it to have a border anymore. And I select the shape in the back. In the fill section, I can choose no fill, but in the line section, here, I set its line color to white. We can also adjust the line thickness here, like this. This becomes our first chart. What can I do about the title? I go to the insert section, then to text box and place a text box here. In this section, I put the name of my chart. First, I carefully select my text, then I choose my desired font, and finally, I precisely center it on the page. I select it, I make it bold, and while it's still selected, I go to the fill section and choose no fill. In the line section, I select no line. I also set its color to white and place it in this section. This is one of the charts you can design for your dashboard. Now here's a point. You might say that you want to know what the situation was like in different years. For this purpose, we need to have a slicer. I go to Sheet 2 and select this chart. I go to the Pivot Table Analyze section and click on Insert Slicer. Here, I select Year. I click OK. We only had 2 years. I make this a bit more compact. I make it even more compact. This way, you can also hide the titles. I click on the Slicer Settings section. I select Display Header and click OK. This way, I have my dates. I press Ctrl X to cut it, then I go to Sheet 3. Here I paste it, bring it over and place it in this corner. So it's positioned up here, just like this. Now, for the specific coloring process, I will navigate to the Slicer section and then carefully right-click on the Slicer Style option. I click on Duplicate. Here you can manage it. The slicer's own area. For example, I click on the whole slicer, go to the Format section, and here I set the fill color to navy blue. Also, in the Font section, we can choose a good font. Any font you think is good, for example, I'll choose this one. I make it bold and set it to 12, then click OK. Now I click OK. A new style has been created for me here. I select my own style. This becomes my style. To improve the style, you can come back in here, click Modify File, and make your desired changes. I click on Select Item with Data, go to the Format section, choose Fill, and select this color for it. You can also see different colors in the More Colors section. I make it a bit darker. Okay. You can clearly see the significant changes right here. Again, I will right-click on this particular element here and then carefully select the Modify option. In this section, in Format, I set the font color to white. Here too, after Select Item is done, again in Format under Font, I set the color to white. Okay, now these changes will be applied. Now look, when I click on the year 2024, it only shows the sales amount for 2024. When I click here, it shows 2025. I select both of them. I can view both of them. This is the state of our slicer. I can move this a bit higher. If you need, you can also bring in different months here. First, I carefully add a text box, then write year inside it. I select it, change its distinct font, make it prominently bold, and accurately set its alignment and specific format. For the shape fill, I deliberately choose no fill at all, and for the outline, I similarly set no outline whatsoever. I also set the color to a clear, bright white, and finally, I arrange it into its proper designated position accordingly. Now my chart has become dynamic, and you can select any cell you like. Let's move on to the next chart. Again, I go to Sheet 2, and here I can also create another chart. I just want to show you the correct column. I can also click on the Pivot Table Analyze section and bring up the field list here. Here we have the value, meaning we have the sales amounts. I click here and go to the Value Field List Settings section. In the Show Values As section, I can also specify to display the percentage of the grand total for the entire column, and then I will click OK. Now, it's clearly showing here that Australia, as a country, accounts for a significant 9.68% of the total sales generated. I want to make this particular chart instead of the previous, less suitable one. So, I will proceed to the Insert tab, locate the Charts section, and then carefully select either a pie chart or a donut chart from the available options. Here, I select the pie chart. Here I can remove these items, delete these buttons for it, make it a bit smaller, and press Ctrl+X. I go to Sheet 3 and press Ctrl+V here. Here I can place my chart. Again, I copy the box I had created. I carefully bring it over here to this precise location and then gently place it within this designated section. Like this. I select this chart, set fill to no fill, and set border to no border. You can select this layer and set its color to white. I can select each of these slices one by one. I go to the border palette section and set it to no. None of these need a border. I'll remove the borders. We've reached this point. Now a question comes up. When I select a specific date here, the chart on the left changes, but the chart on the right doesn't change at all. How can I connect this slicer to that chart? You select the slicer. You have your different tables. Where were these? They were in sheet 2. Look, in sheet 2, this is our first pivot table. Look at their names here. Pivot table 1, pivot table 2, pivot table 3. So here, when we click, we go to the slicer section, report connection, and I say, also affect pivot table 2. Okay. Now look, it has an effect. You can select your chart, click on add data label to add the labels. I select the labels. I set their color to white and apply my preferred font to them. You can also make them bold if you want it to look better. Of course, when you're using charts like this, it's better not to have too many data points. Look, here the number of data points has become too many, and generating reports in these cases is very difficult. What can I do? I go to sheet 2. Here I add a filter for it. In the value section, I select top 10. It asks, how many of the top ones do you want? I say I want the top 3. Okay, it gives me the top 3. Just keep in mind that the percentages you see here are now percentages of the total, since we've removed the other sections. Here, it's recalculating the total percentage relative to itself. If I go back here, you can see that it's split it into 3 sections. If you look at different years, it's showing different countries. This way you can select only, for example, the 3, 4, or 5 countries you're interested in. Here, I can open the filter, set it to 5, and ask it to show the top 5. But again, notice here that it's measuring relative to the total. Keep this in mind. If you need it to measure relative to the main total, you have to use DAX and write a formula to do it. Now pay attention here, it's calculating the percentages for me. For different countries, let's make its size a little bigger too. Next, I'll position myself here. For example, I'll add a bar chart here. This is our bar chart. Since our report has some information listed below, you can see a plus and minus sign here. If I click on the minus, it collapses the chart. If I click on the plus, it expands it. So where does this feature come from? In the Pivot Table Analyze section, if I go to the field list, take a look here. It's because I set a subcategory for it here. That's why it appears like this. Keep these points in mind and create this chart so that you can ultimately achieve this attractive and practical dashboard. Wishing you success and prosperity.